Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dychronic, your host here on this Destiny 2 video, and today we're going to be taking a look at This Week at Bungie for February 20th, 2020. I am still sick, so you guys are going to have to bear through it. My voice is not going to be the same sexy voice you usually know, and not going to have as much energy, so just try to bear with me for a little while. Trust me, I have it worse than you do. And also, can I just say the fact the number of 2s and 0s inside this date is just so satisfying to me. It's really enjoyable. And of course, as always, my TWAB videos are going to be infested, for lack of a better word, with cute animals near the beginning of the video. I always try to include my cute animals in a bunch of different videos throughout the week, and this week, we have a bunch of different cute foxes. Yeah, let's say it's foxes. I just imagine myself in the future just putting pictures of dogs in fox outfits. Oh god, I'm gonna do that. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. This Week at Bungie actually has a lot of nice information. That's not a really big one. For the most part, they only kind of touch on the Empyrean Foundation, and the bulk of it is talking about future updates for weapons and modifications they're going to be making in the next season, which they're still referring to as Season of Redacted. And to be honest, a lot of it is nerfs. There's a couple of things that are not nerfs, but almost every single one of it is a nerf of some kind. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything kind of shapes up in the next season. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. This first section is talking about the donation of Fractaline. We are almost at 7 billion Fractaline. I don't know what the goal is for Stage 7, but it seems like we're at Stage 6 and Stage 7 is on the horizon. Perhaps 7 billion or 10 billion is the goal. I don't actually know. It's probably on Twitter somewhere. But we are very close to finishing this off. Most likely, if you donate now, you'll be donating the last set of it, and we should have it by the end of this week or the beginning of next. Moving on to this next section, it's going to be basically a kind of preview of the sandbox changes that are going to be coming to Destiny 2 in PvE and PvP. Now, there's going to be a lot of different changes. In one of the previous TWABs, we talked about the sword changes they wanted to do, which is very interesting, albeit a little bit confusing and vague the way that they said it. They're going to be talking about a lot of the other changes in this. Firstly, there's going to be a new Nightfall difficulty called Grand Master. And beyond that, there's going to be a lot of changes to different weapons. First of all, for the Izanagi's Burden, the animation speed of Honed Edge is no longer affected by the reload stat, so it won't physically look like it's going faster, although perhaps the reload stat is still going to be the same, so effectively, it's just a visual. And secondly, Outlaw is being replaced with No Distractions, which is a much better perk to have on this weapon because nobody really cares about Outlaw on Izanagi, but No Distractions means you have less flinch while aiming, which can be much better. And funnily enough, that seems to be the only buff in this entire list, and Izanagi's is already crazy powerful. I don't understand how that's happened. Albeit, there are going to be some changes to sniper rifles. You did not know in Shadowkeep they buffed a lot of sniper rifles, giving them about 20% more damage, giving them more precision modifiers, making them do more damage to elite enemies, and they want to basically take that back. So damage to majors and whatnot are going to go back to their pre-Forsaken values of 20% less damage. Adaptive snipers, which are the 90 RPM, for example, the Izanagi's Burden, are going to be reducing their precision modifiers from 3.25 to 2.95, which is not a significant amount. And then finally, the rapid fire sniper rifles, which nobody really uses, is going to reduce their damage by about 10%. To be honest, I don't really know exactly where the sniper rifles are going to end up, but I don't think that they're going to be very far down the list, especially with Izanagi's Burden and its Catalyst having the extra Honed Edge bonuses to it. I still think Izanagi is going to be a very powerful weapon, but perhaps Whisper of the Worm is going to start becoming the dominant DPS hound again. It has been definitely a very weird season having a special weapon be the top DPS in the entire game, but hopefully that doesn't continue because that is a very poor use of the heavy ammo economy. Next up, for grenade launchers, they're going to be making a couple of different nerfs to them. Personally, I don't think grenade launchers really need a nerf, considering that there are so many other options that are going to be a better option, including the linear fusion rifles and a lot of the exotics. But what they're going to be doing is a couple of different things. Firstly, changing the aggressive frames, which are the 150 RPM like Swarm of the Raven, and they're going to be changing them into rapid fire frame grenade launchers. Now, they're currently the fastest firing grenade launcher out of 2 options, basically outside of the exotics. And instead of having the aggressive frame damage and the aggressive frame stats, they will then be changed over to rapid fire, which should increase the fire rate by about 10% innately, because that's what rapid fire frames do, which means that their damage will have to be compensated and lowered because of that. So this is actually something we haven't seen before. Usually every grenade launcher in, that particular ammo type had basically the same damage outside of spike grenades and all that whatnot. Now things are going to be different depending on if it's an adaptive frame or a rapid fire frame. And finally, the damage to the major enemies and elites are going to be reduced by about 10%. Personally, grenade launchers are really not that good as far as DPS goes. I would say they're probably on the higher end, but linear fusion rifles and a lot of the exotics are still winning out by a lot. That being said, I still think that they need to buff rocket launchers by a lot. Next up for the Lord of Wolves. Basically, they're going to be making the Release the Wolves significantly more difficult to aim and significantly less. Next up for Lord of the Wolves, what they're going to be doing is changing the Release the Wolves version of the weapon to have a significantly reduced amount of accuracy. So the regular version, the 5 burst, is going to be very accurate, and then the Release the Wolves version is going to be much more damage, but it's also going to be very difficult to control. So it's gonna be an actual choice between the two of them instead of a non-choice straight to Release the Wolves. After that, there's gonna be a bunch of different changes and nerfs to Last Word. Currently, Last Word, in my opinion and opinion of a lot of different people, as one of the best time to kills for a primary weapon in the entire game. Because of the fact it does the damage of a 150 as a 225, it's become a favorite for a lot of people, including myself. What they want to do with a lot of the words that they're saying here is they want to make it so people have to blind fire it more instead of aiming down sights. So they're going to be giving you different damage bonuses for not aiming down sights, different stability increases for not aiming down sights, and also making it more difficult and having less range while you're aiming down sights, where it used to be where you increased your range when you aim down sights. They're going to be reducing that and making it so it's a lot better to use blind fired than actually aiming down the sights. And apparently they're going to be reducing that stability for mouse and keyboard inputs. From my experience, mouse and keyboard, it had basically no bounce compared to the consoles, which had a lot of bounce. But even then, it was still better to aim down sights because you can get those headshots more consistently. So we'll see how it shapes up. Personally, it sounds like it's going to be turning more into a sidearm and may have to compete in that sphere rather than the hand cannon. And finally, they're getting a pretty significant debuff to the actual damage of a body shot, going down from 50 to 38. The precision's about the same, although obviously better when it's blind fired. Next up for the shotguns, we have a correction and a debuff. Apparently, right now, the non-slug shotguns, when you aim down sights, the aim assistance will pull towards the crit spot, so basically the headshot, which will cause a lot of the pellets to miss because there's more empty space to actually miss, rather than going towards center mass, which is usually the best option for shotguns. So they're going to be making it so instead of going towards the crit spot, they're going to be going towards whatever it can. And on top of that, aiming down sights of these shotgun archetypes are no longer going to increase the effective range, which is something that a lot of people took advantage of. It was kind of like a hidden thing for shotguns. Next up for fusion rifles, there's going to be a correction similar to the shotguns and a bunch of different nerfs. Most likely because of the air intel being too powerful in the Crucible right now. First of all, it's going to have that same thing as shotguns do, where the target acquisition went for the head. So they're going to be correcting that to just go towards any part of the body that it can. They're going to be nerfing the damage fall off, so the archetype now floors at 0.5 times rather than 0.75, meaning they'll have less effective damage over range. The effective range from the optic stats of these weapons, for example, the red dot versus the iron sights and all that stuff, will be less effective across the board. They're also going to be reducing the effectiveness of Backup Plan, a perk that allows you to fire the weapon very quickly after pulling it out, which is very effective to high damage, high range fusion rifle. The way that they're going to be nerfing this is by matching the impact of rapid fire sub-archetypes while this current perk is active, making it so you can't really get that much of an advantage for having Backup Plan. Which in my opinion is really, really dumb, because not a lot of people use Backup Plan, even though I find it to be a very powerful perk. And lastly, the auto rifles. Across the board, the auto rifles are just going to get a little bit better. Every single one of these precision or default body shots are going to be doing a little bit more damage, allowing auto rifles to be a little bit better in PvE. And that's not all. That is just a preview to some of the items. There's going to be a full list coming early March we're going to be getting some exotic armor changes, as well as some tuning to your supers and abilities in the coming weeks, so stay tuned. For the rest of this, I'm going to have to keep it quite short because I'm coughing up a storm out here. For the Dr. Bungie section, apparently some negative balance on silver balances for Xbox. Just relog into your account or consult this guide or their help forums if it's still continuing. Apparently an issue with the Crimson Days emblem in the Valley, apparently not being allowed to be unlocked in the last 9 hours of the event. So basically they extended the deadline to next Wednesday's daily reset. And lastly, the known issues. I honestly don't know what this first one is about. Full Hymn of Desecration stacks are removed from players' inventories upon entering the final one. I don't remember where that's from. World chests in the Dreamy City don't drop Glimmer. I understood that one. And finally, Aeon Save incorrectly tells you how to get certain energy. You have to actually get melee kills to activate that energy perk. But honestly, that exotic needs a complete revamp because nobody uses it. And that's it. That's the end of this week at Bungie. There's a little bit of a video here of a team of Titans basically super fisting Argos to kill him, which was actually really entertaining. It's about a minute long, so I recommend you watch it. Maybe a couple other videos along the bottom, but that is pretty much it. Oh man, being sick really sucks, especially when it screws with your throat, and your job entirely depends on your throat. I really hope I get better soon by the weekend so I can do my top 10. But that's the end of the video. Hope you guys did enjoy. My name is Dychronic, and I will see you guys on the next one. Huge shout out to my first Patreon supporters. You guys are allowing me to continue doing what I do and what I love. So thank you so much for your support. And if you haven't heard of it already or seen it already, please check it out, because without your support, I'm not going to be able to continue doing YouTube with the quality that you expect.